All right, in this video, I'm going to talk about sovereignty. We're going to talk about it conceptually, and then we're going to look at some specific applications of it in certain life domains. And then I'm also going to share some resources for reading about personal sovereignty so that you can make yourself more and more of a sovereign individual. And let's start with the resources, actually. There's 3 books, and they're somewhat long books, but they very much merit reading. And the first one is The Sovereign Individual by James Dale Davidson. Excellent book to kind of go over the conceptual framework of sovereignty, what it means, what it doesn't mean, and then to talk about different economic issues that may be facing both society and the individuals who make up society. This is an interesting book too because he actually made kind of an early prediction. He's one of the earliest predictors of something like Bitcoin, long before it had ever been created. So very useful book. The second book to think about, to read, would be Anti-Fragile by Nick Taleb. Excellent book that talks about a bunch of subjects, but basically the underlying idea is to make yourself more and more robust to different fragilities that might happen in your life, and even to make yourself so that you benefit from volatility or disruption. Put yourself in a position to do better even when things go awry a little bit in life. So excellent book with a sort of subtext on sovereignty, on individual robustness. And then the third book I want to recommend is Gödel, Escher, Bach by, Douglas Hofstadter's the author. This is a monster book. It's something like 700 or 800 pages. Really useful in a bunch of domains, but specifically to sovereignty. This book got me to think about the idea of jumping out of a system and observing the system that you're in from a separate perspective and seeing more objectively the nature of the system that you're participating in. And this idea actually, this jumping out of the system idea, is very useful in the domain of consumer culture or kind of competitive consumerism, basically, because most of our preferences, most of the choices we have for us are kind of artificially constructed, and they also exist at every level of the socioeconomic strata. So, you may have gotten yourself from, say, the working class to the middle class, or the middle class to the upper middle class, but it doesn't matter. In each one of these levels, there's a set of preferences that are chosen for you that are meant to keep you dependent on the system, to keep you in the system rather than sovereign. So you get up into the middle class and you've arrived, but now you just have to drive a nicer car, you have to send your kid to a better brand name university, you have to own a bigger mansion. And so these are constructed preferences that make your cost structure all the more higher. And so you're still on the same treadmill, it's just moving a little faster, right? And so they're just different versions of the same system that are meant to keep you subservient to the system itself. And so if you can jump out of that system and recognize these sort of mechanisms, that's really a first major step to kind of defeating the system or beating the game. And it's hard to do that. It's hard to beat the game from inside the game. You want to step outside the game and see what ways to play chess rather than checkers inside the game so that you can beat it and not become a product or a subservient victim of preferences that happen to be shared by the people around you, instead to pick your preferences. So these 3 books are very useful. And also let's talk about, just continuing on with kind of consumerism and personal choices. The financial domain, this is where you can make your first major steps towards being robust to your cost structure, being robust to, say, job loss, and having more and more sovereignty as an individual for you and your family. And that is to have more than one stream of income. Again, it's part of our system, right? In general, people are expected to get a job, a salaried job. It takes up all of your professional time. And often most companies will have a non-compete, or they have the right to stop you from having other employment. This is often common. And as a result, you are fully dependent on the income stream from this job. And if that job ends, or the company goes out of business, or if you're laid off, you become too expensive, or whatever this reason might be, this company can easily take your income and drop it to zero just with the stroke of a pen, basically. You're terminated and you're done. Here's 2 weeks severance, right? And so if you're an employee, a traditional employee for a traditional company, this is a type of subserviency or a type of dependency. And obviously that's not sovereign. That is not the behavior of a sovereign individual. So you want to be always mapping out, how can I become less and less dependent on the income from this job? And one way to do it is to manage down your cost structure. The other way to do it is find other sources of income. It doesn't have to be from another professional job. Maybe there's not enough hours in the day for that. But one strategy is to work on a side business, side hustles, or it's to perhaps buy or invest in income-producing investments. And this could be, say, an apartment building or dividend-paying stocks or whatever the case may be, and to obviously work on building that income source and progressively decreasing your dependency on the initial income source from your actual job. So these are just ideas to think about to maximize your sovereignty. But the central idea is to use this as a lens to protect yourself and your family. Is this set of decisions I'm about to make, is it going to help my sovereignty or is it going to hinder my sovereignty? This particular asset, this boat or this house that I intend to buy, is this good or bad for my sovereignty? And the decisions might depend, but you use this as a lens to think about improving your independence from the system and improving your robustness to threats to you and your family from the system. So these are the ideas of sovereignty, of individual sovereignty. And like I said, I've recommended these 3 books. I'll put links to them in the description below the video. And as always, I hope these videos are helpful. Thanks.